بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه. Okay. We are on page 112, I believe, and we are about to finish the section on the ritual prayer. One of the things that we talked about is that the greatest ibadah that a man can do is his salah. And the greatest of salah is the fard prayer. The greatest salah that a person can do is his obligatory prayer. And the obligatory prayer, we keep narrowing it down, that is most difficult and the most indicative sign of Iman is which prayer? Fajr prayer. Because the munafiqeen, their attribute is that they do not concern themselves with Fajr prayer. This is the attribute of hypocrites. Why? There's no credit or glory or reputation or dunya in Fajr prayer in the masjid. But there are a lot of rewards for other prayers. So what we mean by rewards is worldly things. For example, if you show up to Isha, there's a crowd there, there's a scene, there are people, right? If you show up for Maghrib, same thing, okay? You're going to be seen. Fajr, it's an in and out, people are not talking, people are not socializing. And in the time of the Prophet ﷺ, it was actually dark. The Sahaba lived in such a rudimentary period of time, such a basic period of time that they did not even light up buildings back in the day. Public buildings like the masjid was not even lit up. It came later in the time of Umar bin Khattab that a Sahabi, the Sahabi came up with an idea to put lamps, oil lamps in the mosque. And that is how he received the nickname Tamim ad-Dari, which means the lighter of the homes. He lit up the masjid. He put oil lamps in the mosque. Okay? He was the first one to do this. So they used to pray Fajr prayer in the dark, pretty much. And by the time you were arriving home, the sun is coming up. Now, Fajr prayer as well has ranks. There are ranks to Fajr prayer. Fajr prayer by yourself is accepted and excellent. But if you can hear the adhan, you are obligated to go pray there. Okay? If you can hear the adhan. Now, how can you hear the adhan? By voice, not by amplification. Amplifying, you can get really far. But if you can hear the adhan within voice shot, it is wajib. Your prayer in your home for no excuse is not accepted. So if I'm sitting and by voice shot or the same distance that is voice shot, okay, I hear the adhan and I ignore it and I pray in my house, this salah in the sight of Allah is not accepted. Why? Once, if you can hear the call of the adhan, okay, you must answer the call by going. Again, this is by voice shot. If someone uses amplification, then it may be so far that it's not necessary, if it's too far. Okay. So this is why the adhan is important. This is something possible in the Islamic countries. Now, otherwise, it is highly recommended for the males to go pray Fajr in the masjid. Okay? Then this is the greatest type of ibadah. Because we said it's obligatory. And of what matters? The salah. Okay? And what salah in specific? Fajr. And which way to do Fajr? In the masjid. Now, Fajr in the masjid for women is not prohibited. Some people think it's prohibited for a woman to come for Fajr in the masjid. It's like crazy. No, the Prophet ﷺ said it is, and this is an example in which you need to know your seerah. People don't know the seerah and don't know that the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, the Prophet ﷺ said the best salah of a woman is in her house, right? But the women at the time of the Prophet, until the time of Abu Bakr and Umar bin Khattab, used to pray in the masjid. We know this. So what happened there? They found that they loved praying Fajr in the masjid. So despite this hadith, even though the Prophet said it, he did not rigorously push the sisters to pray at home. Because in his entire life, they prayed in the masjid. It would indicate to us that this hadith has to do with certain situations. Okay? Certain situations. Such where the situation is that there is fitna, then it's better for her to stay in her home. Because what are we going to say then about Aisha? She wasn't obeying the Prophet. Hafsa wasn't obeying the Prophet. All of the women Sahaba were attending Fajr in the masjid. And this hadith was said. So therefore there has to be a reason for that hadith. All right? It wasn't a rigorous teaching to say women do not come to the masjid and go pray in your homes. Even in the time of Umar ibn Khattab, right, his wife was praying in the masjid. And Umar ibn Khattab stood and said, we don't want women praying in the masjid. Then the wife of Umar ibn Khattab said, you cannot prohibit something that we used to do in the time of the Prophet. So he continued to go. She continued to go. And there's a little bit more to the story, but we'll discuss that another time. But this is the main idea, is that this hadith has a reason behind it. When there is some matter of fitna, when there is some view that it is inappropriate. For example, if you have a small village, it's not going to upset you if you have your daughter or your wife walking in the dark to the masjid. But once that village expands, and now we have strangers in the village, we don't know who these people are, it's now a city, then we would say, yeah, we have a problem with women walking at night. They can be in the dark. They can be aggressed upon. So there's a reason. So you see how in the beginning of the time in Medina, there were such few people that it wasn't a problem for the women to be walking in the dark to the masjid. But once it expanded, it became many, many people coming in from different parts to come and learn their deen. It became a problem. And Umar ibn Khattab said, this is not appropriate anymore. Stop walking to the masjid. You're going to be aggressed upon. And it's not right. Okay? So it's all about this illah. Even Shaykh Salik taught us, the hadith of the Prophet said, a woman should not travel the amount of time of one day without a mahram. So I asked Shaykh Sadiq about this. He said, it is with the illah. It has a reason. And the reason is safety. Namely, she should not travel a distance of one day by herself, because after that, if she's in danger, she's in trouble. So he said, if a situation now that a woman must travel for some period of time, if she can be completely in this position of safety the whole time, okay, that's what's important. The issue is safety. And likewise, the issue of women praying Fajr in the masjid, or praying in the masjid in general, okay? Wallahi, the cultures are ajib that people imagine is haram. Wallahi, they think it's haram for a woman to be praying in the masjid, right? Some cultures are like this. No, the Prophet ﷺ said this, and because we know, he said it, but he allowed the women to keep doing it, okay? And then when Omar saw that the population had changed, okay, then he stopped it, okay? And he implemented this hadith for them. We now know that the reason and when is prayer for a woman better in her house is when it is inappropriate or harmful for her to go out, okay? Unsafe, okay? Just to break this myth that it's like haram for women to be in the masjid and come pray Fajr in the masjid. This is insane. This is really bizarre. They were doing all the way through the time of Abu Bakr and into the time of Umar, and even some women did it even beyond that, and Umar couldn't stop that. Okay? So, the greatest ibadah for a man is to try to pray Fajr in the masjid. Right? And you will notice that you are protected the rest of the day. Okay? And it is the hardest ibadah. There's no credit in it. What are you going to do? You can't show off with it. You can't say anything. There's no showing off. It's between you and Allah. And that moment when you're getting up, everything is dark, and you are getting yourself ready, and you're going down to the masjid in your car or walking or however you go, there's so much barakah. In that period of time, you draw near to Allah Azza wa Jal. Every step that you take is a ibadah, is a hasanat, and every other step is sayyat being removed. Here is the next hikmah. On ritual prayer. Did we do this? What chapter are we on? What page? 27. Oh, okay. Okay. ما فات من عمرك إلا لا. Okay, we did that one. الخذلان كل الخذلان أن تتفرغ من الشواغل ثم لا تتوجه إليه. We did this. The big shame is that you have free time and don't turn towards Allah Azza wa Jal. We talked about this. So now we're on chapter 7. Right? Okay. Invocation. Dhikr. All of what we talked about is the prerequisites, and now al-dhikru manshurul wilaya. Very famous statement. All of these prerequisites, sincerity, getting your salah correctly, knowledge and recognizing knowledge. And remember, we never get engaged in the treatment of Islam as a human phenomenon. Academics. Sheikh Yasir Fahmy, when he was here, he said some Harvard graduate students came up to him and said, "We want you to teach us fiqh." He said, "Why?" He says, they said, "We are studies in Islamic law at the PhD program in Harvard." He said, "I do not teach fiqh or anything in religion except for spiritual motives. I don't teach fiqh just for you to study some human phenomenon or just to study it for no reason. We are studying this to practice it, to live by it." And this is the biggest problem in academic Islam. When you have academics, I would completely abolish it. It should be practiced. Islam is to be practiced, right? It's not a matter just to be studied. Al-dhikru now is the main course of the subject of tasawwuf. This is everything else, like we say, Fajr in the masjid, all these other things. Dhikr is now the main course. And why the Shaykh gave all these prerequisites? Dhikr, without these matters, is unaccepted. And it's accepted, but it should lead you to this. Number 1, knowledge. Chapter 2, repentance. You have to understand the power of repentance. Number 3, ikhlas. Sincerity. Number 4, okay, chapter 4 was the ritual prayer. Chapter 5, solitude. Solitude is very important in tasawwuf, okay? And then number 6 was time, not wasting time. Now we give you the home run, which is dhikr. And the statement of dhikru manshurul wilaya means dhikr is the handout of wilaya. A manshur is an advertisement, like handing out cards for a shop, a store, or whatever. Manshur is basically like an advertisement or a coupon book that you get in your mail. We call that a manshur. Anything that is inviting you to take a fast route to something else, or to get all the information to do something. Dhikr is the main course of tasawwuf. Okay? And it is the number 1 deed that tasawwuf brings that other books won't bring you. Okay? Or other subjects won't bring you. Now let's see what he says. Again, the first hikmah here is how to handle failure in dhikr. Remember what we always talk about, how to handle the negative, right? How to handle sins, how to fall. The first hikmah here, what do I do when I am failing in the matter of dhikr? Okay? He says, لا تترك الذكر لعدم حضورك مع الله فيه. You never leave off dhikr because you feel that it is not working, or you feel that I am not getting closer to Allah or not changing. You never leave dhikr for that reason. Number one, we tell you, do you think that anything valuable comes quickly? Do you think that anything deep appears automatically? Everything takes time. Everything takes time. Okay? Everything takes time. Do not abandon your dhikr because you do not feel the presence of God therein. Someone is doing dhikr, he doesn't feel anything. We tell you, what do you think this is? Right? This is not a drive-through. You're going to get results when you want it. Allah is not an on-demand God. He works at His pace and you wait. This is the deen. Okay? لأن غفلتك عن وجود ذكره أشد من غفلتك في وجود ذكره. Why should you not leave dhikr because you don't feel Allah's presence? Because the absence of dhikr is worse than heedlessness inside of dhikr. So, okay, I don't feel Allah's presence in the dhikr, so I'm leaving it. All right? Leaving it to do what? What are you doing now? Now you're watching TV. So what was better? Someone failing in dhikr or someone not doing dhikr at all? You're better off to be failing in dhikr, right? And even the donkey is going to get it right eventually. If you give a donkey a job, he's going to fail and fail and fail, and eventually he'll get it right. You're going to be better than a donkey. You're going to keep failing at dhikr and failing and failing. Someday you're going to get it right. فعسى أن يرفعك من ذكر مع وجود غفلة إلى ذكر مع وجود يقظة. So it is just a matter of time from when you are heedless in dhikr to when you are aware in dhikr. That means, namely, that your dhikr is failing to your dhikr succeeding. It's just a matter of time. That's all it is. Just a matter of time. But what time? Allah is testing you. Allah Azza wa Jal, remember what we said last time about the path to Allah Azza wa Jal? There's only one cardinal sin, and that is giving up, right? Some people, everyone, not some people, everyone must be tested. You must be tested. You're going to be tested now or later. Guaranteed you're going to be tested. Some people, they just have such a hard time getting going. That's their test. Other people get going quickly. They don't know they're going to have a test coming. There's no freeway, right? Okay, let's look at Sayyidina Hussein. Hussein is a legend in Islam. We all know this. Look at how he began. When your grandfather is the Prophet, you got to think it's pretty easy, right? When your father is Ali, when your mother is Fatima, Zahra, right? I mean, how easy can it get, right? Someone says, how is that even fair? How easy can it get? Okay? You think it's easy because you are naive. The test will come now or later. Look at how he died. All right, you want your grandfather's the Prophet, your father is Ali, your brother is Hassan. How about watching your mother die young, watching your father get killed, stabbed in the head, then watching your brother getting poisoned, then you yourself getting killed? Now, would you like to be Hassan and Hussein? Would you like now to switch with them? Yeah, as babies you would have liked to be in their position, right? Growing up in the lap of the Prophet, peace be upon him. As a baby you would like to be him, but you can't pick and choose. You have to take the whole thing and look at his whole package. His whole package. He got his test at the end. Okay, he got his test at the end. Everyone would like to be Imam al-Bukhari, right? Writing books at moonlight at the grave of the Prophet. I mean, what a life. A man who has spent his whole life traveling city to city, soaking up the knowledge of the muhaddithin. Right? All right? Yeah, you like that part, but you don't like it at the end when he can't find a home. When he's kicked out of Samarkand, kicked out of Nishapur, kicked out of Bukhara, kicked out of every city he's going to, he's being kicked out until he's homeless. You don't like that part, right? So we know that in this path is all there's going to be tests in the beginning or the end. If you have your test in the beginning, we tell you you are lucky. Some people have doubts. Wallahi, some people have doubts. They can't even get their iman solid. That's their test. If you have your tests in the beginning, we tell you you are lucky. Because it's going to be smooth sailing until the end. And then you get your, basically like, as a medical degree, you just have to take re-license, re-up every once in a while with a test, but nothing will be harder than the first one. So if you get your main test in the beginning, you're lucky. Now, some people, Allah will test them by not giving them what they ask for right away. Because again, your God is not an on-demand God. You wait until He wants to draw you near to Him. The guarantee is who tries will get. Who seeks will find. That is the guarantee. When is up to Allah. It's a 50-50 deal. Ask, you're going to receive. But when, it's up to Allah. And this is why, again, they said the only cardinal sin from which you can never survive and recover is quitting. We never quit. Even if you go slow as a snail, but don't quit. وَمِن ذِكْرٍ مَعَ وُجُودِ يَقْظَةٍ إِلَى ذِكْرٍ مَعَ وُجُودِ حُضُورٍ. Now, some people, the dhikr is now stages. Firstly, your tongue is moving and nothing else is happening. Secondly, your tongue is moving and your heart is enjoying it. Thirdly, your tongue is moving and you enter into a situation in which you feel and you are certain Allah is watching you, and it's as if you are with Allah Azza wa Jal. It's as if you are with Allah Azza wa Jal. This is go from ghafla to yaqadha to hudur. ومن ذكر مع وجود حضور إلى ذكر مع وجود غيبة عما سوى المذكور وما ذلك على الله بعزيز. يقظة غفلة يقظة حضور غيبة. حضور مع Allah Azza wa Jal, you feel it is as if I'm sitting with Allah. Then ghaiba is even greater, and that is that a person is no longer even aware of his surroundings. Al-Hasan al-Basri, one time, I believe it was Hasan al-Basri, maybe, no, it was one of the Ahlul Bayt, actually. Maybe it was Muhammad al-Baqir or Ja'far, or Ali Zain al-Abidin. His house was on fire while he was in Salah. His house was on fire. And the house was burning down. And then later he came out. Then they said, what happened? How could you not hear, right, that your house was on fire? He said, by Allah, I was in Salah. When I salamed out, I found the whole place was on fire. This is ghaiba. Literally, not aware of his surroundings. This is how deep the dhikr can be. Okay? And in this case, he closes with وَمَا ذَلِكَ عَلَى اللَّهِ بِعَزِيزٍ. No one should say, well, I will never attain such level in dhikr. Whoever says so quits. And he doesn't attain it not because he was correct, but because he quit. Okay? Not because he was correct, but because he quit. And he's in these times, Allah Azza wa Jal shows the abd what no one else will see from the ghaibiyat. Okay? That which is more ghaibiyat. Allah Azza wa Jal shows the abd these things. What happens when we draw near to Allah and away from the dunya? People want to know, what happens? Alright? A very simple question. This is a very simple answer. What happens when one loves another? And this is, of course, Allah, وَلِلَّهِ الْمَثَلِ الْأَعْلَى. Right? There's no perfect metaphor with Allah, but we can use metaphors, allegories. When two people love one another, what do? They start sharing more information with them. You start sharing more knowledge with them. You start showing them more stuff. If someone you love came to New York City, what are you going to do? You're going to show them around. They say, let me show you this. I want to show you this. I want to show you this. Why? The more stuff you show him, the more he's going to love you. And because you love him, you want to show him. That's just the nature of relationship. You want to show him more stuff. So the awliya, when Allah decides that he loves a wali, now he starts to show him more stuff of his creation. He starts showing him his creation. And he starts showing him his creation. He doesn't have to take him away. He doesn't have to take him, let me show you. He's not showing him of the earthly things, showing him of the otherworldly things. And these he shows him in yaqza or in different ways, however Allah wishes to show him. Okay? But there are so many karamas to the awliya. Wilaya is a path that is formal. We know what it takes to get there. But Allah Azza wa Jal says, when I love a abd, Prophet ﷺ said, when Allah loves a abd, that means when someone has strived and strived and strived and strived and reaches the level of wilaya, this is not a fuzzy thing, it is a formal thing. إذا أحب الله عبدا نادى لجبريل وقال يا جبريل إني أحب فلانا فأحبه. I love so and so, now you must love him. فيحبه جبريل وينادي في أهل السماء يا أهل السماء إن الله يحب فلانا فأحبوه فيحبه أهل السماء ثم ينادون إلى أهل الأرض أن أحب فلانا فيوضع له القبول في الأرض. This hadith is regards the announcement of a person's wilaya. Wilaya, when you get a doctor, when you become a medical doctor, you don't gradually become a medical doctor. You finish your exams, you wake up one day in the spring, you show up at the thing, the guy gives you the certificate, at that moment you become a doctor. Before, if you died and you never showed up, you're not a doctor. If you get sick and you never show up to graduation, you're not a doctor. So at that moment you become a doctor. Wilaya is not a fuzzy thing, it is a formal thing in the heavens. Okay? In which Allah Azza wa Jal announces to Jibreel, I love so and so. Now he's a wali. When you are a wali, what is the difference between a mu'min and a wali? A mu'min, he has huquq, and he has guarantees that he will eventually go to Jannah. That Allah Azza wa Jal will eventually answer his prayers in this life or the next. That he has huquq amongst the Muslims. A wali has greater huquq from Allah. He has greater rights now. What are his rights? That his dua will immediately be answered. That if he needs protection, it will come to him immediately. That if he is fought, if anyone has enmity to him, okay, Allah takes over. If I'm a believer, you're a believer, if I'm a believer and there's a guy bothering me, right? Then whatever happens, happens, right? I have to defend myself, okay? Unless I'm oppressed, then Allah gets involved. But if someone has animosity towards a wali, okay, Allah gets involved. And Allah Azza wa Jal will make sure that that person gets reprimanded or punished. Okay? Sometimes, there used to be a shaykh named Al-Habib Ahmad Mashhur Al-Haddad. Habib Ahmad Mashhur Al-Haddad. He is from the Habayib of Yemen, but he used to live in between Jeddah and East Africa. And there was a man who abused him. So Habib Ahmad Mashhur Al-Haddad, he went around yelling at the man, abusing the man back. So they said to him, why don't you leave the matter for Allah Azza wa Jalla? Right? And we know your position. He said, that's the whole point. I am trying to take care of this and end it now because I don't want Allah to handle this man because I actually like the man a little bit. It was his former landlord, right? And the landlord, Habib Ahmad Haddad, fixed the house. So the landlord said, oh, you fixed the house? Raise the rent. Instead of thanking him and giving him a discount, he raised the rent. So Imam Habib Ahmad Haddad kept going after him, right? And they said, why don't you leave him alone? Allah will take care of it. He said, I don't want Allah to take care of it. I want to take care of it because I don't want it. Well, with the awliya, sometimes that doesn't work. And then that man ended up losing his business and becoming broke, and he ended up being homeless actually. Man aada li waliyan faqad adantuhu bil harb. If Allah Azza wa Jal, if you have animosity towards a wali, okay, then Allah wages war on him. Doesn't matter. Okay, doesn't matter. Imam al-Haddad, the or older Imam al-Haddad, he said something the opposite. He said, I found that if I talk badly about someone and I fight back and I argue back, then Allah Azza wa Jal leaves it. But if I stay silent, then that person gets punished. Right? When people have animosity towards him, this is wilayah. Now the question is asked, can a person know that he or she is a wali? And the answer is yes. How is the answer yes? Imam al-Nawawi, Juwayni, Ghazali, all of them said yes. How is that yes? Very simple. Don't we have Sahaba who know they're going to Jannah? Aren't the Sahaba mubashareen bil Jannah? Abu Bakr and Umar, Uthman, Bilal was given bushra that he is going to go to Jannah. Hassan and Hussein, before they even reached bulugh, they knew they were going to Jannah. And is anyone going to contest that they were an awliya, greater than any wali after them? Of course. So a person may, so now Imam al-Nawawi asks, well, how will it be avoided? Someone asks Imam al-Nawawi, how can we avoid now if he learns that he is a wali by some means, usually through a ru'ya, a dream? Then how will we know he doesn't relax in the religion? He won't relax in the religion. He'll just relax. Now I'm a wali and I can just relax. He said if someone does that, he's not going to be a wali in the first place. Because the number one point in aqeedah, that is kufr, is al-amnu min makrillah. To feel secure from the threats of Allah Azza wa Jalla. Abu Bakr as-Siddiq said, if I have my right foot in paradise and my left is outside, I'm not secure yet. Until both are inside paradise. Then I can relax. Okay? So number one, he's not going to do that. Number two, it is that person who's asking the question is assuming fear of hell is the only motive for a mu'min. No. A abd who attains wilaya, he attains wilaya when fear is not the main motive that drives him anymore, when love is his main motive. Right? When love is his main motive, at that point, fear and hope, even if they're nullified, he will still keep doing and better. This is why Rabi al-Adawiyya, she said, I have a bucket of water for anyone afraid of hell, and I have a fire for anyone desiring paradise. Why is she saying this? When we are supposed to, in religion, fear hell and desire the garden. Even the great awliya, they simulate it, right? They simulate it. Allah told you to fear hell and to desire the garden, you have to do that. No one could say, alhamdulillah, I've reached the point, I don't fear hell. This is kufr. I've reached a point, I don't desire paradise. You're lying. You haven't even seen it. Right? Okay? So this is kufr too. Who are you not to desire paradise? And the Prophet ﷺ said, I saw some fire of hell and I stepped back. And I saw a grape of paradise and I wanted it. You're better than the Prophet. Right? So you have to desire it. But it is not their only motive. They reach the motive that they have a greater motive, that they love the deen, they love everything about it. Okay? And this is لا يؤمن أحدكم حتى يكون هواه تبعا لما جئت به. You're not going to complete your iman until your desires are in accordance with what I have brought. That means his most beloved moment would be tahajjud and fajr. Right? He wouldn't say, really secretly, I love having, coffee and staying up watching TV in 2 a.m. Secretly, that's what he really loves. No, you would really be at the point that I don't really want that at all. I don't like that. I don't like the consequences of that. And some people have to try and taste it, and then they learn. Some people, that's how they are. They're curious. But the problem with curiosity, there's a problem and a benefit to people who are just so curious. There are some people out there that are just so curious. They need to know everything. So they go and they try everything. Maybe not out of, maybe they didn't plan it. That's just how they are. And they learn the hard way. So the number one problem with it is their path takes longer because they try so many things and they realize the conclusion is really bad. And when you try something, you may get lost in the forest, and it may take you 5 years to come back, right? It may take you 5 years to come back. But the benefit of such people is they have actual more knowledge. They know for sure this is bad for you, and this is what happened to me, and this is what happened to me, and this is why nobody could refute heresy and philosophy and too much an excessive cerebralism like Ghazali. Nobody's refutation of cerebralism was more acceptable than Ghazali. Because Imam al-Ghazali spent his entire life as a highly cerebral scholar who just studied to death everything there was on the earth, from all of Greek philosophy, all of Shi'ism, Batiniya, okay, Batini philosophy, all right? Every philosophy on the face of the earth, he studied it to a pulp, and he responded to it. And then what did he say to us at the end? In his small booklet called Faisal al-Tafriqa Bain al-Imani wa Zandaqa, the line between faith and heresy. And the last chapter, this is the last thing Imam al-Ghazali wrote, right? The last chapter of that book is like the conclusion of his whole life. He said, all of my life spent refuting is basically the doors of the city, locking the doors of the city. But your iman will not grow from refutations. Your iman will not grow from excessive thinking. Your iman will grow from constant exposure to the remembrance of Allah, be it through the adhan, through the Quran, through Salah and Jama'ah, through the Muslims. And he said, many ignorant people, unlearned people have arrived a lot faster than me, but they didn't have the knowledge to put it in words. Right? They arrived. And this is why Imam Ghazali realized that the path of Tasawwuf is filled with common folk. If you think about the path of Tasawwuf, it's mostly common folk and like 1% scholars. But he said, because it's a matter of the heart, and their hearts are equal to the scholars' hearts, right? So they arrive at it knowing it with their heart, okay? But they don't have the words to put it together. And this is one of the reasons we follow the Jama'ah of the Muslims. The Jama'ah of the Muslims, even though they're not scholars, they're a hujjah for us, right? If all the pious believers are doing one thing, there is a reason, even though they don't know how to put it into words, right? This is why we should follow the Jama'ah of the Muslims. And this is why many of the Sahaba always talk about the iman of their grandmothers, right? Follow the iman of your grandmother, right? Your grandmother, she doesn't know how to put it into words, but she's been alive enough that she knows what works and what doesn't work, right? And this is basically basic knowledge of the heart. That's what it is. It's knowledge of the heart. Knowledge from experience. Next says, Akramaka bi karamatin thalath. Allah Azza wa Jal gave you 3 karamas. 3 gifts, really. 3 gifts. Ja'alaka dhakiran lah. Number 1, He made you interested in dhikr. What is the first Imam Junayd al-Salik, Muhammad ibn Junayd. All right, his nickname is Junayd al-Salik. Junayd al-Salik, you should know, he is the earliest scholar who put pen to paper on the subject of tasawwuf. Okay? Junayd is the first person to put pen to paper, one of the first, on the subject matter of tasawwuf. So what's the story of Junayd? Junayd is from Iraq, and he was a wrestler, and this time Iraq was so wealthy, and life was good, right? Really good. And there were so many Arabs that moved up there and Persians. Okay? Junayd was one of them. He grew up such a luxurious life, a very good middle class life, really, not excessively, just a middle class life, and he was a wrestler. He was wrestling, right? And he became the greatest wrestler in the city. So a man came up to him one time in the gathering of the Sultan. The Sultan, or the Khalifa at the time, was sitting there with the people, and Junaid was there. He's like a young celebrity wrestler, right? So an old man came in, okay? An old man came in, or sorry, the king said, the Khalifa at the time said, I want to make a tournament with Junaid, so that if anyone can beat Junaid, I'm going to give him 2,000 gold coins. So they did this tournament. Now an old man came, I said, I want to be a contestant number one. So he said, okay, this is a joke, obviously. You're an old man. You're not going to beat Junaid. Now the man, he said, I'm going to do it. I want to try. I have the right to try at least. So everyone laughed. I said, try. Now, right before they start wrestling, before they're making any moves, they're whispering to each other. And this is what athletes do. They always talk back and forth. So he said, look, listen, I'm Ahlul Bayt. Okay? And Junaid says, okay, and what? What about it? He said, I can't accept zakat. Oh, so then it clicked in his head. Ahlul Bayt cannot accept zakat. The man needs the money. Right? He's just said those two words. That's all the old man said. He said, I'm Ahlul Bayt. So Junaid says, oh, what do you want me to do about that? Okay? So he said, I can't accept zakat. So he realized. So Junaid said to him, I'm going to pinch you, and that's the move that you need to do. If I make the move and signal you, you make that move. Okay? So they went on wrestling, and Junaid kept pushing his hand and pinching him, or like squeezing his hand, until he made the moves on him and he pinned him. So then Junaid, the king said, this is, something's wrong with this, do it again. He said this, do it again. So they did it again this time. Junaid did it with different moves. And Junaid got up. He said, Wallahi, he's old, but he has experience. He has moves. Right? And his king says, I don't believe this. Do it a third time. He did it. He still won. And people were just looking at Junaid like, you just lost to an old man. And Junaid made up an excuse. He said, he has moves. Like he's old, but wrestling is not strength, it's moves. Right? So Junaid quickly left. And his reputation was ruined. He ruined his reputation. And the man got 2,000 gold coins. Right? Then, that night, the Prophet ﷺ came to Junaid. He said, you did this for my family. Okay? I will ensure that your future is blessed. Okay? And the Prophet ﷺ gave Junaid this bushra because of what he did for Ahlul Bayt. Right? He ruined his own reputation for Ahlul Bayt. He said, I'm going to give you a new reputation now. Then Junaid left wrestling completely. Then what else to do back in the day? He started attending to the sheikhs of the time until he became the greatest sheikh of tasawwuf in his era. And his nickname has become Sayyid al-Ta'ifa, the chief of the Sufiyya. Before he was the chief of the wrestlers, right? And now he became the chief of the Sufiyya. So Al-Junaid says there is something called wilaya sughra, small wilaya. And what is small wilaya? Just the fact that you believe in dhikr and tasawwuf is small version of wilaya. Just the fact that you believe in it, that you recognize as part of Islam, that you recognize as the truth. This is wilaya sughra. Okay? So the first thing, if you are someone who makes dhikr, this itself is the first gift Allah has given you. Even if it means you are just one of those silly people who's carrying around a set of beads all the time. Many people say this is a bid'ah, but we say to them, okay, let's take an analogy here. You have to calculate your zakah. Are you using a zero? There weren't zeros at the time of the Prophet. How are you calculating zakat? Writing numbers? Using the calculator on your phone? None of this tools existed in the time of the Prophet. So using a subha is a trigger. Because when you have it in your car, in your pocket, all of a sudden it makes you make dhikr. What else are you going to do with it? It's a trigger that helps people make dhikr. And this is why Junayd as-Sadiq, the same Junayd, was asked, why are you an old man and you are carrying this subha when you know the scholars, they don't usually use it, but why are you using it? He said, when I was young, this helped me remember to make dhikr, and because it helped me in the beginning, I don't want to ever leave it off. And since then, it was not considered anything wrong to use a subha. Okay? So this is why people use a subha and should have it to help them remember to make dhikr. Okay? What else are you doing in the car? Right? ولولا فضله لم تكن أهلا لجريان ذكره عليك. If it wasn't for Allah's choice, He would not have even given you the prerequisites to make you worthy of dhikr. The prerequisites being what we talked about: tawbah, salah, ilm, ikhlas, uzla. وَجَعَلَكَ مَذْكُورًا بِهِ إِذْ حَقَّقَ نِسْبَتَهُ لَدَيْكَ. And He has made you remembered by Him since He confirmed His relationship to you. If you, there's a story of Ibn Abbas saying, okay, I know when my name is being mentioned in the heavens by Allah Azza wa Jal. They said, A'udhu Billah, is there wahi after Rasulullah? Is there any wahi now? The Prophet's gone. How do you know what's happening in the heavens? He said, because Allah says, Udhkuruni adhkurkum. Remember me and I will remember you. So anytime I am remembering Allah Azza wa Jal, I know Allah is remembering me. Simple. Anytime you're making dhikr, Allah is remembering you. So it's a two-way operation. So when Allah Azza wa Jal made you make dhikr, this means He is thinking of you. So if you want to know what is my position with Allah, if you are beloved by Allah, don't you think about your beloved all the time? Don't you think about your beloved all the time? At all times you're thinking of, Yani, 2 hours aren't going to pass without you thinking about, what's my wife doing? What are my husband doing? Okay, I need to check in with them, right? Or what are my kids up to right now? 2-3 hours aren't going to pass without that, right? Likewise, if Allah loves the abd, He remembers him all the time. He remembers him all the time. Okay? He remembers him all the time. And so when Allah remembers the abd, it manifests in this world with the abd desiring to remember Allah. And this is why whenever the awliya have forgotten to make dhikr, they feel, maybe I have done something wrong. Why isn't Allah remembering me? So they hasten to make dhikr. And Shaykh Nazim al-Haqqani, his nasiha was, if you go more than 4 hours, if you go 4 hours of time, take a short break and remember Allah a little bit. So if you're with people or you're doing a job, yani your heart will feel rusty at 4 hours. So every 4 hours, just stop, make wudu, pray 2 rakahs. And he used to leave his guests, excuse himself, right? Go make wudu, pray 2 rakahs, then come back to him, because he used to have a lot of guests. Right? He used to go excuse himself, make 2 rakahs, and come back. Okay? So this is something that we can do. And then he says, وَجَعَلَكَ مَذْكُورًا عِنْدَهُ فَتَمَّمَ نِعْمَتَهُ عَلَيْكَ. Okay? And He made you remembered by those with Him. Remembered by those with Him. The first relationship is you're trying to get close to Allah Azza wa Jal. But Allah has, this is very interesting, people don't realize this. Allah Azza wa Jal, when He wants to draw you near to Him, He doesn't come and get you Himself. He plants the seed and you start traveling to Him. Then what happens? He sends you one of His awliya that are closer to Him to educate you and draw Him near. He sends you a Rasul, a messenger, and of course now there are no messengers, He sends you a teacher. Right? He sends you a teacher. And when your bond grows with your teacher, and you grow and you start learning, and you start advancing, and your teacher starts pointing out your flaws, right? That is the sign of Allah's education to you. Allah is not going to educate you Himself. He puts seeds, the seed of love inside of you, or He gets involved in destroying what is causing you to forget Him, okay? And He puts inside of you the serenity that you feel when you're doing right, until finally you start moving. Once you get on the path, then He sends you a teacher. So in the beginning, it's just you and Allah, right? You're alone and things are changing. It's weird. All you have is Allah. Then a teacher will come to you, and he will take you by the hand slowly, one by one, until you arrive properly. Right? This is how the path works. No one should say, I'm traveling to Allah, but I don't have a teacher. I don't have a shaykh. It's between me and Allah. That's it. No, we tell you that person, shaitan, has tricked you. Because what is the sign of firstly, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam was not learning the religion from Allah directly. Was he? Or he was learning from Jibreel? He's learning from Jibreel. If Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, the greatest of the khalq, and the founder of the religion, and the first, and the return of all the chains of transmission, if he himself is not directly being educated from Allah, he's getting Jibreel alayhi salam. Right? So who is anyone else not to have a shaykh? This is a tenet in the subject of tasawwuf. First, secondly, the subject of tasawwuf, madalla. Madalla means you can get lost in the subject of tasawwuf if you don't have a shaykh to educate you. How many people of you, if you go home and you tell your families, oh, we study tasawwuf and the Sufiyya, they're going to say, oh, these people are crazy. These are people going in graves, and these are people doing bid'ah, and these people are dancing, these people are charming snakes and swallowing chicken blood and all these things. Yeah? We tell them, when did this happen? When did this happen? I can speak for the Arab world, Egypt in particular. This happened when the British Shayateen al-Ins, okay, figured something out. They figured something out. What did they figure? They figured that that tasawwuf, having a tariqah, an order, is the link between the sheikhs and the people. That's the link. The people are not studying fiqh, not like 2% are studying fiqh, 2% studying hadith. But what are all the people doing? Attending the Sufi gatherings, the mawlids, the dhikr. Right? So what did they do? First thing, they made it through the pashas. Of course, they made the pashas do it. Every tariqah has to be registered. So they did that. And it looked fine, registering all the orders. Anyone who wants to have an order, what was the rule back then? The Azhar University controlled all the orders. How? If you're going to open a tariqah, publicly I'm going to be a sheikh, I have a dhikr session, I have gatherings, I have classes on tasawwuf, I have murids. You must be a graduate of Azhar. You must be a scholar. What did the British do? They canceled that. They said anyone can open a tariqah. So what did you end up having? Juhal, ignorant people opening tariqas. Ignorant people opening tariqas. Now what? Now you have all the problems coming in. There were no problems up to then in terms of tasawwuf having this bad reputation of being a bunch of craziness going on. Now all the problems developed, right? All the trouble came because of this. When the scholarship was broken from this is why tasawwuf. But what is the attribute of someone who has knowledge in the sight of Allah? Number one attribute in Surah Yusuf, وَفَوْقَ كُلِّ ذِي عِلْمٍ عَلِيمٍ. Above everyone of knowledge is a shaykh. Above everyone of knowledge is someone of greater knowledge. That means we in Islam, yes, you're inspired by Allah. Yes, your dua is directly between you and Allah. Yes, you worship directly Allah. But how do you learn? Through a shaykh. That's it. You must learn through a shaykh and have a shaykh for the rest of your life. There's no such thing as I'm just me floating around. All right, floating around, settle to the bottom. You'll be safe, right? If you want to have no sheikh, settle to the bottom. Take no action. But once you take action in religion, you need to have recourse. Even if your sheikh is like, okay, like a group of people that, yes, I trust these individuals, and sometimes I go to him, and sometimes I go to him, sometimes I go to him, that's accepted too, right? You need to have someone. You don't just do it by yourself. Okay? This is very important. This is why the Prophet ﷺ gave us another dua. Allahumma rzuqni hubbak. Oh Allah, grant me your love. What else? Wa hubba man yuhibbuk. And the love of those who love you. You cannot, it's not enough that I love Allah and Allah loves me. If Allah loves you, what is He going to do? He's going to guide you to Mashayikh. He will guide you to have a teacher. Because the Prophet ﷺ said, oh Allah, grant us your love and the love of those you love. Well, how do we know who is the good shaykh? وَحُبِّ كُلِّ عَمَلٍ يُقَرِّبُنَا إِلَى حُبِّكَ. Look at their actions. Look at their actions. Look what others are saying about them. Right? Who is the shaykh? The shaykh is someone who has a shaykh, who others can testify, yes, he studied with so-and-so. He's not a self-made man. There's no such thing as a self-taught man. Right? So you'll never see a shaykh be a one-off. He will always have colleagues. He'll always have other people around him. Okay, so do we take a pause here? We should take a pause here, and Asr is now at 4:15. Or what should we do? Asr is at an odd time. Let's take a pause here. Huh? Okay, so we'll keep going then. Food's not here yet. Okay, good. ما كان ظاهر ذكر إلا عن باطن شهود وفتن. Okay. This hikmah means there is no dhikr on the outside except that the inside is already working. Right? The outer aspect of invocation would not be saved for the inner aspect of contemplation and meditation. Okay? The worship, obedience, and invocation of the servant, meaning all your religious efforts, which become manifest in the world, are in a certain sense a return to the inner witnessing experienced by the spirit prior to its entry into this world. They are thus connected to the effects of that earlier spiritual perception, even though the servant is unaware of it. When you are now noticing yourself start to change your behavior, okay? This is because something deep inside of you already started to change. And this is merely a manifestation of the change. And likewise, the opposite too. Yeah, when you want to look at someone, look at their behavior, suddenly he's changing for the better or the worse, little things. The outward is a reflection of what's happening deep inside. Right? Yeah, back in the day, you look at a kid, he's going through 6th grade, he's fine. 7th grade, and all of a sudden, he doesn't want to wear regular pants, he wants to wear baggy pants. All right. By the time the end of 7th grade, all of a sudden he's pulling his pants down a little bit. Okay? So what's happening? Something's happening there, right? Something's happening. He's being influenced by someone. Next thing, right? He starts spending 20 minutes in the mirror, right? Making sure everything looks perfect. He wasn't doing this before. What happens? Something happens, right? Something happens to make him more concerned with worldly things than before. Okay? So if you're noticing something happen in December, the change internally probably happened in March. Right? And this is why Umar bin Khattab, he would be very perceptive of minor changes in people, because once you answer the call of your nafs once to little things, it's going to start demanding bigger things and bigger things and bigger things. So Umar used to cut it at the little things. Okay? Omar wrote a message to the people of Azerbaijan, the Arabs in Azerbaijan. This is recorded in Imam al-Nawawi's book, Bustan al-Arifin. Couldn't believe it when I read it. Omar wrote a letter to the people of Azerbaijan, to the governors, the leaders of the Sahaba and the Tabi'een in Azerbaijan. And amongst the things that he said to them, he said, the people of Azerbaijan, they do not like sitting in the sun, but know that the sun is the bathhouse of the Arabs, so sit in the sun. And know that the people of Azerbaijan, it has reached me that the people of Azerbaijan wear loin garments, underwear, right? They wear loincloths. But we Arabs do not wear loincloths. We are free. Okay? Can you imagine a head of state telling the people this? He's telling the Arabs, do not even, he's governors, he has control over them at least, right? He's telling the governors, do not even wear a loincloth. Because that's the beginning of your change. Do not change, right? Don't change. It's the beginning of you imitating them. Don't imitate them. That's how perceptive Omar was to little changes here and there. Little changes. And as working in the masjid, it's textbook. This stuff is textbook. You start seeing this stuff, yani, and it's like textbook stuff. You see a person starts coming. The first thing they say is, my friend had a question and sent me to ask you, right? Okay, we'll pretend, we'll play along, all right? All right? Then he says, he comes back, and 2 months later with another question, and then 1 month later, and then a week later, and then every day. And all of a sudden, he's going, right? He's going. It starts very slowly from far away. From far away. And there is even in music philosophy, and Hans Zimmer does this all the time, it's in like waves, right? Where the music will be playing, and then from far away you hear like an instrument. And then slowly that instrument gets louder and louder and louder and louder until it's the present main instrument. Right? It's like that with people too. They're far away, and they come. You have one interaction with them. 6 months later, another interaction. 2 months later, 1 month later, then he's a regular. Then after 2 years, all the signs of taqwa are there. All the signs of taqwa are on this person. And mashallah, they've developed. That's how it is. That's how it works. So we need to start moving, all right? And we have to be careful. When you start, this is the thing, when you start noticing that yourself is doing things that you don't like it to do, do not worry about the thing, worry about the motive. It must be that some matter of dunya has entered your heart. Someone who's now, I'm doing a behavior I never used to do before, so I must stop this behavior. You're thinking wrong. You know what you're thinking like? There's a weed coming up, so let me cut it. What's going to happen next? It's just going to come back. Let me cut it again. It's going to come back. Let me cut it again. No, you need to dig, because somehow the seed of the weed got deep in the ground. And that's what you need to remove. So we say it's not the action that you need to worry about, is the motive, which is hubbud dunya, hubbul jah, love of popularity. The seed entered sometime 4 months ago. Maybe from one interaction with a person, the seed entered, and it manifested 4 months later. And you now have trouble cutting it off. You don't have to worry about cutting it off. So what do? Dhikrul maut. When we do the dhikr nights here, we do the session in which we, 5 minutes, shut the light and imagine yourself going into your grave. Imagine yourself on your deathbed. This is a very powerful meditation. This fikr, if someone does it, we do it 5 minutes twice a month. Imagine someone who does it 5 minutes once a week, or 5 minutes twice a week, or every day, right? You visualize yourself on your deathbed, okay? Now, what the ulama tell us is that, contrary to the popular saying, my life passed before my eyes. No. The ulama tell us your regrets will pass before your eyes. You regret. What do you regret? Then your regrets manifest. Then you can remove them. It's just like in medicine, when they want to see if there's something, what do they put in your blood? A dye, a blue dye. And it goes in, and if there's something bad, it comes up. So what are we going to regret? A life spent saying, I'll do it later, I'll do it later, I'll do it later. When later comes, you're not even healthy enough to do it. You're an old man or an old woman, and your knees can't even sit properly. And your eyes can't even see. And you have asthma and you can't even make dhikr because you're coughing too much. Right? Don't wait. Do it now. So this fikr gets to the heart of the matter, and that is al-maut. Al-maut is the heart of the matter. Dhikr al-maut. So we'll stop there, inshallah, and then we'll come back. Now we move from dhikr to fikr. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. Leave it.
Yeah. Pause it.
No, let it go one shot.
Pause it.
No. Oh, pause it? Okay. I thought you stopped. You can even pause it from the live stream. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله Bismillah. Alrighty. We're now on the section of fikr, meditation. Now, fikr is the twin of dhikr. Prophet, peace be upon him, said, ساعة فكر خير من ألف سنة عبادة. Or other statements like this, similar to this, that an hour of fikr, or a period of time in which you do fikr, is worth more than 1,000 years of ibadah or 70 years of ibadah or what have you in the hadith. Mainly because fikr is categorically better than ibadah. Categorically better. Fikr, thinking, pondering. There's a big difference between cognition, cognitive intelligence, like your IQ, and thoughtfulness, right? And the ability to imagine. There is a huge ocean of a difference, okay, between the two. Cognition is being smart, right? Having an IQ, okay? There are a lot of people who are smart, okay? This has nothing to do with thoughtfulness, reflection, pondering, and imagination, okay? And the latter is what Allah is talking about when He says fikr, okay? Pondering, contemplating, imagining, okay? And we can summarize all that in meditation. Now, the only reason that I would hesitate from using meditation is because it has a sort of what's the word? Sort of an association with other religions, the practice of other religions. So we can just say fikr. And it's actually interesting that there has been a thing where Islam has brought in new vocabulary words wherever it has gone. Right? Islam has brought in new vocabulary words because the words itself have meanings that are different. Fikr is different from meditation. You can go meditate on nothing. You can't do fikr on nothing. Most meditation, what do they say? Like clear your thoughts. Okay. What do I think of next? They'll tell you, I don't know, a peaceful scene. This is not fikr, right? Fikr is not meant to do this. This is not a secular therapy situation, right? Fikr is the contemplation, okay, that leads you to leaving off matters of the dunya. This is the goal of fikr. The goal of fikr is that it will lead you to move towards the akhirah and leave off the dunya. Anything else is not called fikr. Do you have a hand up?
What about a thing where you become blank? Like blank, as in you don't even notice the people around you, you don't even see the front behind you. You're not necessarily pondering on Allah.
We can advise for treatment for that. See, this is the thing. We're guided meditation. We want to call it meditation, right? See, I don't really like the idafa of saying Islamic this, Islamic that. Well, we have a term for that, right? We don't have a term for that. Islamic holy war. No, we have a term for that. It's called jihad, right? Islamic meditation. We have a term for that. It's called fikr, right? Islamic spirituality. We have our own term for that. It's called ihsan, tasawwuf, tazkiyah, right? Is to assume that there's anything beneficial in Islam that originated outside of Islam, then we had to make it Islamic. If it was really of any benefit, we would find it in the books, in the source itself. As for someone who, as Sha'ban said, he has a fikr where, or has a state where he's completely blanked out. Of course, stuff happens to people, right? But our goal is these three things. As the Prophet ﷺ said, that we are yearning for the afterlife and forgetting dunya. Notice how, how do you do this? To get yourself to the point that you're not thinking about the dunya anymore. You're less interested, losing interest in worldly affairs, and your actions are reflected in this. And what is your action? You start acting for death. You start taking the actions of death. And this is the very fine line between us being complete failures in life in the name of spirituality. This is wrong. Even if someone must act for the dunya, let's say you're a marketer, right? Are you going to start saying, you know what, I don't really care about sales this month. Let me just market half the time. No, this is not what Islam is calling you to do. We're looking at the motive. And one of the greatest motives is that, for example, sunnatul hayat. Our sharia recognizes something called sunnatul hayat. What is sunnatul hayat? How do normal people live? You get married, you have kids, you have a business, you go to work, you expand your business, then you retire. Okay? Sunnatul hayat. That's how it is, right? Sunnatul hayat, when you work and you start thinking, I need a justification why I'm doing all this work. One of the justifications is sunnatul hayat. This is acceptable and is the right thing to do. Sunnatul hayat. I need to work. You need to get married. You need to have a resume. You need to build a resume. You need to be waking up doing something, right? So the last thing that we want is some deadbeats making dhikr. This is the last thing that we want, right? So when you work, and the other thing that we want, that we don't really buy into so much is Protestant ethic thing in Islam, the Calvinist ethic, right? Like go and work extra overtime so you can give more sadaqah, right? This is sort of the Protestant ethic. The Protestant ethic means that the Protestants believed in their religion, the people who came to America, who were actually a rejected sect. They rejected sect from England. They didn't want them in England. They were persecuting them in England because they were a sect, a ta'ifa, a firqa. So the British kicked them out. They ended up coming on the Mayflower and the Nina and the Pinta and coming to Massachusetts. What sect was this? They used to believe if you're rich, God loves you. If you're poor, God doesn't love you. So what's backtrack one step, and what does that force you to do? It forces you to work extra hard, right? Protestant ethic. Work hard so God loves you. Now you got a lot of people trying to bring a version of this in Islam and saying work extra hard so Allah can love you more and you can have more money. We say no. That's actually, you're not going to find the Prophet ever preaching that. You will find the Prophet preaching work. This is sunnah of life. If Allah gives you money, good for you. Enjoy it, right? But working, and also work is a form of worship. Yes, because so it keeps you off the street. There's a lot of benefits in it. So this is how we approach, okay, people, working, and also realizing that there's nothing wrong in this. But at the same time, we're not going to a sort of Protestant ethic version that has very little any evidence directly in our sources. So when someone is in a form of meditation, we have a focus, and that person should be focusing their fikr upon something, and that is Allah, that is afterlife, and that is al-huzn al-mahmud. We also have something else called al-huzn al-mahmud, beneficial or praiseworthy sadness. And that is this type of sadness that pushes you away from dunya. And what sadness is this? This type of sadness is, this is the best way I could put it is, when you go to your old school, or an old place that you used to go to all the time, and you find that it's like fallen into ruins or something, or it's so old, right? You go there and you're like, wow, I used to live here, or I used to go to school here. And look what happened. Everything's changed. Everyone's gone, right? It's not even a sadness. It's more of a contemplation, right? It's more of a reflection, like, look what happened. Everything's gone. Everyone's changed. Or when you are in your house and you find an old yearbook from 1986 and you're looking, oh my gosh, look at what we used to look like. And why is this good? Because it makes you realize that life is passing. Life is moving. And this is only something that you could do with age. Youth can't do this. 10-year-olds cannot do this because he has no memories in the past. He's only 10 years old. 15-year-olds cannot do this, right? Once he hits 25, then he sees his second year grade yearbook. He can start contemplating, oh my gosh, remember this? And look how life has passed, and what have I done since then, etc., etc., right? This is al-huzn al-mahmud. And the Prophet ﷺ said, all goodness derives from this huzn. This type of huzn that makes you want to leave off dunya, right? And the dunya is such a gravitational pull on us that some people, and this again goes back to the balance of work and spirituality, it's very important. Some people, instead of having to fight the pull of dunya, they cheat. They cheat. And they flip their magnet around so that they go to the opposite extreme. And this happened in London when one of the young devotees, not young actually, middle-aged, and the sheikh was given a regular lecture, and he was saying that the Prophet ﷺ said the best work is the work of your hands. This is a hadith. The best rizq of a person is the work that he's done with his hands. And this means that it's the best rizq because if I made like a glass and I'm selling it, it's very clear what I've done all day. Whereas if you're something else, it's not really clear what you do all day, right? On most jobs, you ask them, what do you do all day? You look like you're sitting behind the computer all day, right? What do you do, right? So it's very hard to say, well, I did this amount of paperwork. It's very hard to justify, right, that you did a good day's work, even though you know you did or didn't. So that's the meaning of the hadith. So what did this person do? He was working in a pinstripe suit type of job where he dresses in a pinstripe suit. He goes for a brokerage company and making deals with other people's money all day. And these people make a lot of money, right? They could lose a lot really fast, but they make a lot of money because he gets, what is it, something like 5% right up front, goes to him, and then 20% of the returns, right? So you imagine how much money he's making. And he's just an agent in the brokerage, so he doesn't even have to go get the business. They bring him the business and he works it, okay? And someday he becomes a partner and he brings in the business. So he became started attending to the sheikh. At the time, there was a Turkish sheikh teaching tasawwuf. So he loved it so much. He loved the dhikr so much. But he flipped his magnet, right? Instead of fighting the resistance of dunya and living in the dunya but fighting the resistance to love dunya, what did he do? He quit his job and he became an apprentice to a plumber. Okay. His wife went nuts. Okay? And he ended up insisting. Many hardships were coming, right? Many hardships were coming. But he didn't understand the deen. He didn't know that when you make a decision, number one, istikhara. Number two, istishara. Number three, if all these hardships are coming, maybe you shouldn't do it. Number four, you didn't have to do this in the first place if your job is halal. Your trades are halal, you don't have to do this in the first place. Inadvisable, right? He ends up losing his wife, losing his kids, okay, losing his house. Now, he thought he was happy. So he was a plumber by day, living in a little apartment, then go to the sheikh right away. Spend all night with the sheikh, and go back to being a plumber 9 to 5. He thought he was happy. 7 to 10 years passed. Okay? 7 to 10 years passed, and he woke up. It's as if he woke up. He realized, what have I done? Now he's looking at the scale of his life. What have I done? So what does he start doing? Resenting the sheikh, hating the sheikh so much for being the cause of this. He left the sheikh and he left the practice of Islam altogether. Not only him, his brother saw what happened and his brother became a secularist. His mom and dad saw what happened, they kept their kids from the mosque. So look at one foolish decision that looks good, but it's out of ignorance, led to an entire family basically cracking. And some of them got over it over time. They got over it. It's not like they're all of us like so simplistic they all became secular kafirs or munafiqs. No, they got over it, but they all cracked. All of them cracked. And they're not the same towards religion anymore. All because of one jahil, ignorant decision made with ignorance. You see knowledge, the value of knowledge, he made a rash decision with ignorance. Okay? So, instead of going to this extreme, we say heap a strong dosage of fikr. Fikr. When you make fikr, it causes you to basically lose that attachment to the dunya. So you're going through the motions of what you're doing with effort, with energy, with sincerity, but it's not making you love the dunya. So at any point, right, when time's up, you can leave it. You do not become a workaholic or an addict to dunya. This is the benefit of fikr. Dhikr cannot achieve this as good as fikr can achieve it. Fikr, thought, meditation can achieve this. Yes? Okay, very good question. How to practice fikr? Fikr occurs by, begin with reading the lives of the Anbiya and the lives of the Sahaba, then the lives of the Salihin, then emulate that. Okay? If I don't know how to make fikr, well, all of us need a guide for fikr. And the guides are these books, the stories of the Salihin. Yet there's a book called, what is it called? The Ranks of the Righteous. Is known as Hilyatul Awliya. In Arabic, you can get it called Hilyatul Awliya. Just buy it, order it from. There's an online Arabic bookstore. What is it? There's Jarir Books. There's another Arabic site. What's the Arabic site? Falakbooks.com. Falak Books. Order Hilyatul Awliya or Hayatul Sahaba. This will guide your fikr. You will start seeing how the Salihin live, right? How they live. This is the easiest way to begin, and then from there, it'll go on, and you'll understand how to make fikr by emulating their lives, right? Reading their stories and knowing this is our qudwa. These are our examples. So many people, when people talk about examples, they say, Steve Jobs, right? This is the first thing people talk about, Steve Jobs, okay? First of all, what is your motive in life? This is the question. You want to be successful. Not successful, that's it. You should want to be successful in dunya, but successful in akhirah first, dunya second. Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, all these people, they're all successful in dunya first, and akhirah zero. This is not what you want to be. That's not what you want to be. So look, who is your example, right? And we have examples in some subject, and he's not your example in anything else, right? So where he crosses outside, yes, industrially, in this industry, he's the best example. Okay, follow that. As long as and when he breaks with the guidance of your deen, that's when you don't take from that, right? So this is the importance of fikr. Okay, al-fikratu siyarul qalbi fi maidan al-aghyar. It is the voyage of your heart thinking about dunyawi things that will lead you to the akhirah. Thinking, how do people of dunya die? How do they die? Unhappiness or misery? How do people of salah die? Unhappiness or misery? Who avoids fitna in their lives? Look at fitna. Do you want to have fitna with your kids? A'udhu billah. Do you want to have a fitna where one of your kids goes astray? Go and look at who goes astray and look at their parents. You're going to find, and many people say, subhanAllah, you never know what's going to happen. See, look at such great people and look at their kid. I'm telling you, it's never random like this. There is always something. There's always something that was done wrong. Right? There's always something that's done wrong. You're never going to have a kid go far astray, right, for no reason. There's always a reason. Enza Tamara Gray, she said in a lecture one time that I listened to, she said, love and guidance there's no equation for love and guidance, right? She said this in the halaqah. And then her teacher said, no, you're wrong. There is always an equation, just that you didn't know it, right? So when you say someone going far astray, right? And you say their parents are so good, they pray and they're such nice people. Well, that's all you know. You don't know what goes on in the household, right? You don't know, are they attentive in the household? You don't know, are they bad in the household? You don't know what's going on. So for your knowledge, you don't know. But there's always something. There is always something, okay? There was once a great woman, subhanAllah. She was a great woman. Everyone loved her in the community. And her daughter went far off, right? Turns out, whenever she had some bizarre thing. Sorry, her son. Yeah, a bizarre thing. When her son would say, Mom, do you love me? She would say, no. It's like, what? And she thought, he's, a tough kid, and, they're all boys, and they're all tough. So she's just being tough back. As if he's so misguided, right? But that simple thing, right? And then there's other problems you discover later on. The dad, right? Dad didn't like for his son to read. Such bizarre things. Well, you start putting two and two together. Thirdly, right? They never asked the brothers to help the son, right? So every brother is doing something, and they're never bringing the youngest brother along. You start thinking, all these three, yeah, there's a reason. It's never a blind equation. You have a question? Which prophets? Prophet Nuh alayhi salam. Do we have another example from the children of the prophets? No, only his wife. But his daughters were good. With Prophet Noah, let's take an example of Prophet Noah. What did we say? You have a mom and a dad, right? Okay. These are the two influences. If the kid goes astray, there's always going to be a problem. Well, what was the wife of Prophet Noah? A disbeliever, right? Who lied to him and cheated to him. So one of the kids inherited that, right? So it's not that you had a rosy picture of two believers and then two believers who are decent parents. And no one's saying you have to be great parents. You read these books, you don't take these books too seriously. No one said you got to be this perfect parents. You just got to be decent enough. And decent enough in Islam. Right? That's all you have to be. You don't want to wind yourself up so much, right? That every second you're looking, am I being a good parent? Am I going to be good? No. You just need to be decent enough, right? Allah Azza wa Jalla is Kareem and generous, right? You need to be there enough, decent enough, and knowledge enough. Passing on knowledge enough. But Prophet Nuh, why did his son go astray? You didn't have two righteous parents. You had one righteous parent, the other was munafiq. She was a munafiq. She was telling Nuh, I'm with you, I'm with you, I'm with you. And in fact, Allah says, امرأة نوح وامرأة لوط فخانتاهما. They were both liars. They were bad women. Right? Okay? So that's what got passed on to those kids, to that one child. Yeah. More difficult doesn't mean it's hopeless, but it's, of course, if there are two accountants handling the files, now only one is handling the files. He's got more work to do, right? Same thing. Anytime you take two jobs and put them in one, it's going to be more difficult. But you have examples. Imam Malik, his mom was a single mom. What did she do? Seek help with the scholars. She used to take her son to the sheikh, right? Sought help in the masjid. That's what she did. And that's the sunnah of single parents, seek help of the masjid, right? By being in the masjid, okay, there was once a woman, total single mom of one or two or three boys, can't remember. Totally looked like a helpless case, hopeless case. But what was her practice, her routine? Just bring him to the masjid. This was in England. Bring him to the masjid, bring him to the masjid, just bring him to the masjid. She didn't even know what to do. She just sweep the floors, sit in the class, do nothing, I don't know. She sought Allah's help by coming to the masjid. Well, think about this. Who's in the masjid? Other people, right? Other people. And each one, that boy ended up actually better off than so many other kids because of how many relationships he developed and how balanced he got, how many skills he learned. She used to bring him in and dump him. He's getting failed in school. She doesn't care. Just bringing him in the masjid and dump him in the masjid, right? And then start helping out. He rose up to the point that he's like everyone's assistant librarian, assistant to the imams, doing paperwork. He was the child of Allah. We used to say that, like he's the son of Allah, but the son of the masjid, we can say, right? The son of the masjid, in that sense. Okay, so everyone helped, pitched in. So this is what a single parent should do, and Allah knows best. That's a whole other subject that. Yes, sister.
I have a question. So you said like the parenting is always an influence on children, the inherited behaviors from their parents.
Well, yeah, what we can say is really bad results do not come from nothing. That's what we can say.
So my question is, what if the children, like, how do they, if they want to, and they have that seed plan, like, move from that behavior? Because it's going to be harder from someone that's in a clear household, or like a household that they were conditioned of good behavior. How does a person or the child go out and practice? How is it like? It's going to be harder. How is it like?
Okay, so you're asking if he came from a dysfunctional situation. All right, so we have a hikmah in this too. The ulama give us a hikmah. The ulama say, whatever dysfunction you had in your childhood, okay, can be fixed by your spouse. This is a big hikmah, right? Only your spouse. You had a bad dysfunction in your childhood with your mom and dad, your spouse will help you undo those knots. And that's how it works, and that's the sunnah of marriage. That's why the Prophet said we marry, because those dysfunctions, only another one that you live with can help you undo those dysfunctions, right? And this is why there's so many dysfunctional people today, because they don't even marry. Right? They don't marry, so the dysfunction continues. They say, well, we see a therapist. Okay, a therapist isn't with you at 2 in the morning when you're like crying and having some breakdown. A therapist isn't with you in that random moment. A therapist cannot do a lot of things that a spouse can do for you, right? A therapist isn't even committed to you as a person. Huh? I have some old-fashioned opinions, right? I have some old-fashioned opinions, okay? But I don't want to make a statement about some field that I'm not aware of, but I have some old-fashioned opinions, okay? Right? Let me just ask one question. Go to the therapist and say you don't have an insurance. You're not getting treated. So this is someone who loves you? If your loved ones failed you in one respect, only someone who loves you equally will help you in that other respect. This is where I'm not buying this thing, right? These people, it is not love relationship. You need a love relationship to help you get through these things. And how many best friends, spouses have taken people from the gutter and fixed them with no expertise? They never cracked a textbook. What do they just love the person? They just love the person. They stick with them until they solve the problem. I've seen many of this, and you have all seen many of these things, where you got hopeless case, but the mom is just relentlessly loves her kid, and she gets through. All the doctors said, no, it's a hopeless case, it's a hopeless case, it's a hopeless case. The mom got him through. Or the wife, right? There was even a documentary of a Christian, right, in Tennessee, that the guy, I think like, they're engaged. And then right before the wedding, by some few days, there's a big accident, car accident. So the guy, he doesn't walk anymore. He can't walk. And he can hardly talk. Okay? So what happened? His fiance, and that's why in the South they have good Christian communities, right? His fiance refused to give up on him. She stayed. And then over years, he learned how to walk and communicate. What the doctor said, he'll never walk and he'll never talk. Why? Because there's love involved. And this is where the big difference between, some guy who's just taking your insurance. And yes, he has some expertise, but you cannot replace love. So to answer your question, the dysfunctionalities of childhood, the ulama tell us, can be fixed by your spouse. Wallahu ta'ala. Yes.
Sometimes the nuclear family cannot fix their own problems. So either they need to go to a professional, or whether he accepts insurance or is kind enough not to do it free, or some outside person who is looking at the
Even that,
so it could be friends or whoever, they can help the family solve their problem.
yeah, even that though, like a mom who takes the kid to a therapist, even if it works, it's probably because of the mom. Because she's taking him around. She looked up the therapist, right? Yeah, so that's why I didn't want to throw the whole thing in the garbage. But if you're going to tell me that it's better off than one of these family relationships, right? No, even when therapy works, it's because the mom and dad arranged it and helped out, or the wife arranged it and helped out. That's why it's going to work. Because now you cannot. So that's Allah Ta'ala, but that's what the conclusion I've reached. Yes? It's a tool. It's a tool. Yeah, it's simply a tool that if I don't know how to do something, there's always someone behind it. So you can never replace these core relationships that Allah created the human being with these relationships. Yeah. Yes? Yeah. No, it's just funny because back in the day, if you go to a therapist, if you even said it, you're gonna get hit, right? That's a therapist, you have a mom and a dad. What's your problem? Right? But if we're gonna get all technical, and everything is so technical these days, the human being is a robot these days, right? Everything, okay, is technical, right? So, okay, if we're gonna use it as a tool, fine. That's it, as a tool. Yeah.
I'm not objecting to the therapist because like anywhere you go, you have to work it for it to work.
Correct.
And my question is, put the spouse aside.
Yeah.
Now, if a person like doesn't have a spouse and they have this plan already and they want to do it on their own, what's the action that needs to be taken? Because like as a human, like
You mean
you retreat back to the behavior of what you know and then go forward.
you mean getting treatment for what?
Not to like to become to get out your patterns and behaviors that you had as coping skills because
Okay, so in my opinion, from my experience, I can only speak of my experience on this. From my experience on this, if someone has a coping mechanism that is really bad, that he needs to stop. Okay, I say there is no one straight way to do it. Anyone who's trying to sell you one straight way to do it is a lying, basically. But my method that I found works is that you just is dogged determination and refusing to stop is what gets people to where they want to be. And think about this is the best answer because there is no one way to do things. If there was one way to do things, why are there so many books? Right? To me, to me, is dogged determination in fighting and not stopping, and eventually, right, you're just gonna hit it. If you want to find gold, you just keep digging. There's no one way to know where to dig. You just keep at it, and that's just how I. And we all in Jahiliyyah, we had bad habits, right? How do we fight them? If you want to find the one book, you're lazy. There is no one way to do it. You just keep battling away, battling and failing and getting up and failing and getting up and failing and getting up. And then I'm telling you from my experience, at some point it starts to click. And something deeper happens. Some deeper motives and deeper issues start to come to the surface. And once you clear them, the behavior to cope with them goes away. Allah, or the agendas, deep hidden agendas that were in the ego rise to the surface. Then when you remove it, the habits that come with that agenda go away with it. So Allahu A'lam, but I would never divorce that from the religious path. That tawbah, dhikr, Quran, fasting, solitude, combined with whatever the therapists are saying. Okay, looks like it's going to be open up on, yeah. We'll take one more and then we'll go. We'll take you and then we'll do a couple more hikmahs. Well, at least we'll finish the bab. Yeah.
I don't think a lot of times you have to be. I mean, I come from a dysfunctional family. You know, I'm from the hood and stuff. So.
Well, we don't want to stereotype.
You know, it didn't mean I have to act like them.
Yeah.
So, I know it's like I took the TV away. My boy doesn't watch TV. I don't have a TV. I have TV, but I don't have a cable box. So
Yeah.
I noticed when you watch certain, you put them in front of TV, it has a tendency to do something to them, you know, make them aggressive and reaction, you know, it's different. And just what I used to watch TV with them, with my boy, and it was unusual because they teach him how to lie, they teach him how to cheat, they teach him how to do all these different things in a sly, you know, very humorous way.
Yeah.
You know, like we used to watch a Disney Channel, and I'm like checking it out, and I'm looking. I said, all the kids are laughing, but they lying to their parents, they cheating, they doing different things and so forth. So, you know, I don't have a TV that aspect. So taking charge, you know, like of the children's behavior and what they're being exposed to. Also with the friends, you know, because when my boy plays, I watch who he plays with and how they play.
Yeah, but our culture is so filled with disrespect. American culture just makes fun of everything sacred, has no limits. Our culture has no limits. I mean, the culture that produces a movie, One Nation Under Dog, right? You know where that culture is going. It's already in hell. And whoever absorbs more of it has a greater chance of going to hell. It's an equation. You can make it a mathematical equation. Okay. Okay, this pop culture, I mean, you're not missing anything, right? You're not missing anything. So I think you're doing the right thing, to be honest with you. Next one, he says, Al-fikratu fikratan. Fikr is two. Fikratu tasdiqin wa iman. One of belief and meditation. وفكرة شهود وعيان, and the other of contemplation and vision. فالأولى لأرباب الاعتبار. The first is for people who like to think and contemplate. والثانية لأرباب الشهود والاستبصار, and the second is for those who have made it, all right, to contemplation and intellectual vision. Let's see the explanation here. The select servants of Allah are of two kinds, the salik and the majdoob. Okay, this is some advanced matter here in the realm of tasawwuf and spirituality. There are two types, as-salik wal majdoob. As-salik is the one who is having to go step by step to draw near to Allah. The majdoob is the one whom Allah Azza wa Jal has taken him to him. So our Shaykh Baz Shu'aib from East Africa, he's originally Yemeni, East Africa. He used to say, as-salik is the one who has to climb the building step by step. And the majdoob is the one who went through the back up the elevator. Okay? This is the difference, all the way to the top floor. So they have differences to them. Okay? The one who logically deduces the causes from the effects is a traveler. He meditates on the effects and arrives at the knowledge of the cause. So as-salikin, which is most of us here, hopefully all of us, we operate by cause and effect. We operate in the world of cause and effect. If I want to arrive at an effect, I have to do the causes. Common sense. His heart initially wanders in the objects of creation. So he starts looking at the creation to attain his desired effects. From these meditations, he reaches the way to divine attributes. Okay? For example, he sees people transgressing without Allah punishing them. And from this, the traveler appreciates Allah's hilm, patience, okay? Where he refrains from punishing despite having the power. Moreover, from the beauty, excellence, and perfection, okay, of objects, he infers that Allah is all-wise. So he's always looking at the creation first, and then understanding Allah Azza wa Jal's attributes through the khalq. This is the first type of contemplation, okay? Looking at creation and understanding your maker through that. I'll give you another example in the realm of da'wah. In the realm of da'wah, we will constantly find that when da'wah is local, it flourishes and it's easy and it's sweet. Once it becomes so huge and broad and umbrella and national, it loses its sweetness and it gets corrupted and it becomes a business. This is something you'll notice. You don't need to read a book about it. Just notice, if you have any experience in the realm of da'wah, whenever da'wah is small and local, it's sweet, it's easy, everyone's benefiting, everyone's happy. Once it becomes big and national and broad, even if the leader of such a da'wah is the best person, he loses control, it becomes bad, it becomes sour, it becomes a business, it becomes really bad. And the best example of this is one of the best of the people, and one of the people that everyone knows. He's one of the awliya of Allah Azza wa Jal. نحسبه من الأولياء. We consider him to be one of the big awliya of Allah. And he's a faqih, and he is a da'i, and he's one of the best. He did an organization that was national. And before he died, it was a disaster. And that's Hassan al-Banna. Hassan al-Banna is of the best of people. Read his biography. He's one of the best of people. He has karamat. Hassan al-Banna has karamat al-awliya. Okay? But his da'wah was different from the way his sheikhs used to do it. How were his sheikhs doing it? A local tariqah, a local jama'ah, right? What did he do? He said he modernized it. He made it a national organization. He had immense success in the beginning. Then what happened? He's uncontrollable. It spiraled so fast, it's out of his control. Within his lifetime, he couldn't control it. And they went and they tried to assassinate people and politicians, and they did things, and it became out of his control. And there were too many people, he could not teach them. He couldn't educate them. He lost control within his lifetime. Okay? Now, I often thought, if Hassan al-Banna is such a great man, أسأل الله سبحانه وتعالى يعني أن يسعده في قبره وأن يدخله الفردوس الأعلى. Because I really love this man, Hassan al-Banna. I always ask, why didn't Allah Azza wa Jal stop him from doing this national da'wah? Right? If the national da'wahs are always end up no good. In the beginning, it's so exciting, right? But very quickly it becomes bitter, right? The answer is this. The answer is the same answer to the question, why didn't the Sahaba in the Battle of Uhud follow the orders of the Prophet and then ended up with the Prophet ﷺ being struck and losing and 70 Muslims being killed? Why did we not succeed in the Battle of Uhud? It's the same answer. Because you all need to see failure. You need to see examples. Even if you are soldiers of the Prophet, peace be upon him, and you are winning the war, the battle, if you disobey, you will suffer. If you do the wrong thing, you will suffer. So Allah Azza wa Jal, and Allah knows best, this is just my fikr on the matter, that Allah Azza wa Jal is showing us, even if you are the best man, if you do a national organization, it's never going to be sweet. It's going to be bitter. It's going to end up bad. Right? The best of da'wah that really works over the long term, even though it's less glamorous, is local work. It's less glamorous, but that's what works. And all the people who go national, they end up having to change in a bad way. You have to be a businessman. You have to be you have to be political. Very political. Right? It's just an equation. Just look at everyone who does that, you see certain attributes in them. And everyone who stays local, you see certain attributes in them. It doesn't mean you don't travel, but it's what's your ambition? Who are you trying to do? What are you trying to do? Why are you controlling so much? Allah Azza wa Jal put you in a place, help those people. Why are you trying to control people in another place? Look at the Muwatta of Imam Malik. One of the reasons people say it succeeded is because he refused to allow it to be the Ummah-wide book. And that if he had accepted that the Muwatta be the Ummah-wide book, he would have lost it. It would have been rejected, and the people would have rejected it, right? Bukhari, he did not intend for his book to be ummah-wide. He just made a book for the people, and it became ummah-wide, right? It's usually that's how it works. But if you try to control the nation, Allah didn't ask you to do that, right? And He's going to make you suffer until you pull back, right? And if you refuse to listen, you're going to end up being something else. You're going to transform into something that you didn't start out to be. Okay, so this is fikr. You think about the creation to arrive at conclusions about the creator. In philosophy, what do they call this? Inductive reasoning, right? Or is it deductive, which I always get these two confused. Deductive and inductive. Just like effect and affect. Why do they just make two different words, right? You have inductive and deductive. Whichever one it is, it's one of them. You look at the creation, you draw conclusions about the Khaliq. Okay? Deductive, okay? Now, on the other hand, okay, the one who acknowledges effects after meditating on the cause is the ecstatic. Initially, his heart becomes imbued with the spiritual perception, figuratively speaking, of the being. He then dwells in the names and attributes of Allah. Finally, he enters into meditating on creation. Now, some people are the opposite. Some people are the opposite. They come to know Allah Azza wa Jal, and they focus on the divine attributes. The divine attributes, then they come to know certain things about the creation. Okay? Now, the divine attributes. Let's take a look at, for example, something that's quite common in our culture of the Big Bang. Right? We know Allah Azza wa Jal, okay? Allah Azza wa Jal, His creation. We know how He creates. So the Big Bang sounds like sort of a ferocious, not an accident, it's like an accident almost, right? A ferocious thing. But we know Allah Azza wa Jal is very delicate in His creation, right? So continue to look for another term for the Big Bang. Because yes, even if we know in our book too, everything was nothing, and then Allah created suddenly. But Allah creates with elegance. He doesn't create with a ferocious explosion, right? This is the work of terrorists, right? Terrorists blow stuff up, right? Then why are they attributing that to the beginning of the universe if it's so bad now? An explosion is no good, right? It was elegant. Whatever happened, who knows what it is? I know for sure. We know from Allah, it was elegant. Allah Azza wa Jall's creation is always elegant. It's never a horrible explosion. Okay? except for some horrific explosion. So this is the opposite, operating from the divine names and then knowing things about the creation from there. Okay, and this is what the Majadib do. Okay, his heart becomes imbued with spiritual perception, so he understands Allah Azza wa Jal. Then he comes to know the matters of this dunya. Okay, and he starts to contemplate the creation afterwards. Okay. So the traveler, the salik, goes from bottom up, and the ecstatic goes from the top to the bottom. Okay? The Shaykh says that there are two kinds of meditation. The first is known on belief, and the second comes from contemplation and vision. In the first kind of meditation, the traveler to the knowledge of Allah by the meditative study of His created objects. They utilize their physical senses in the observation of creation to calculate or to conclude the greatness of the Creator. The aim of this meditation is the spiritual perception, mushahada, of the pure being of Allah Most High. Its motivating force is not only belief, because progression is not, in this instant, essentially from the Creator to the creation, but in this case, the progression, so to speak, is from the creation to the Creator. Thus, the gaze of the traveler's heart is focused on the creation, then to the Creator. Okay? Now, here's the negative of this and the positive. The negative is it takes longer. But the positive is when you reach a conclusion, you're able to explain it to others. The opposite, those who know Allah Azza wa Jal, then they know something is wrong, right? Or they know something is right. You can't explain that to people. I can sit here and give you 5, 6 examples, right? And then convince you that something's right or wrong. But the people who know Allah, who are inspired by Allah, then they apply that to the creation. They're always more accurate. But the problem is they have a harder time explaining this to others. Right? How do you explain this? This is like many parents, many common Muslims, something in their heart tells them that something's wrong. So they tell the kids, don't do it. Stop doing that. Okay, why? He doesn't know why. His heart is clean. He comes from the old country. He knows that's wrong. Something about it, just his fitrah knows it's wrong. Now his American kid is asking him why. For 10 generations, no one ever asked why, right? This first American kid asking why. Now he doesn't know. And this is the negative of when you are based on inspiration. Is the negative is you can't explain why. So the scholar is someone who can explain why. And this is the benefit of the scholar over the worshipper. The worshipper, he may have a better understanding. He's more pure, but he can't explain why, so it's pointless. The scholar must be able to explain why. Okay? Must be able to explain why. Same thing in hadith. If you remember in hadith studies, one of the conditions they put is the illah, which is the hidden defect. So someone said to another student, or a student said to a sheikh, how do I know if there's a hidden defect? He said, go to the experts of the age. They will look at the hadith and they'll tell you if there's a problem or not. Well, one of the sheikhs rebutted. They said, no, you can't stop there. If he is truly an expert, he needs to find the problem in the hadith. Where's the mistake in the chain of transmission? Okay. So likewise, and this is very important for us as parents, we cannot just be righteous. You have to have knowledge. You've got to be able to convince, right? Or at least present the case. You have to present the good case. Okay. All right, so this ends the section. So today's lecture was on fikr and the importance of fikr. And the next one is on abstinence, zuhd. Shaban? No, of course there can be a blend. And the clear, purely ecstatic, or majdoob, the more majdoob, the less functional in society. The more majdoob, the more illiterate he is and the less functional he is in society, but the more pure he is. But he cannot convince people, right? He doesn't have the tools to convince people. No. Why do you have to go there? Schizophrenia, astaghfirullah, this is sickness from the jinn or from the brain or something, right? Schizophrenia is a sickness, right? In the brain, right? There's something wrong, physically. The majdoob is not schizophrenic. He is totally functional. but he has inspiration. He's inspired, right? He's inspired. And therefore, when he sees something, he comes to a conclusion that is an inspired conclusion. If you ask him why, he can't give you an answer, right? He'll just know that something's right or something's wrong, right? Or he'll explain something in a way, but he can't explain you why, right? So this is why there's two types of fiqh. And he can never be a sheikh either. He can't be a sheikh. You can take inspiration from him. You can benefit from him, but he cannot be a sheikh because he doesn't know cause and effect. Whereas the best type of sheikh is the one who begins majdub, but then Allah sends him down, and then he has to study and learn the way all humans do, right? Learn cause and effect and whatnot, and then he can explain it to others. Yes? Yes, that's correct. That's correct. He should begin from the bottom, right? And he should not aspire to go out before he should work naturally from his duty, his local situation, and his family and himself. If he goes further, it goes further from himself. But he should not desire it. He should do what his job is for himself, for his family, and for community. Right? Allah Azza wa Jalla never made it obligatory for a prophet to go beyond his nation or his people except Prophet Muhammad. But look at how the Prophet Muhammad did it. He was concerned with one city, Mecca. That's it. When he had to make hijrah, he was concerned with one city, Medina. Right? You didn't see the Prophet going and leaving Medina too much. But then he was focused only on one city, Mecca. Then it expanded that Arabia is his whole environment. Right? And you could see when the fitna happened, when the Sahaba spread so thin, then the fitna happened, right? So the issue is that a person should not be biting off more than he could chew, and oftentimes it is hidden ego in such ambition, right? It's a hidden form of ego. Yeah. And this reflection really I think only applies in, I think it applies in a lot of the service areas, service industry, right? If you're trying to just be so huge, right, you're going to end up being a political animal, and you're not going to offer the service that you're offering. If you become huge naturally over the years, then that's fine, naturally. Yeah.
I wanted to share, like, when you talked about Zikr Maut, one of my friends who was going to match tomorrow for residency to become a doctor, and he passed away 4 days back.
Subhanallah.
He went to Umrah, and he came back, and within 2 days, he got a cardiac arrest. They rushed him to the hospital, but he was declared brain dead.
Subhanallah. And that?
He was brain dead. He was declared brain dead when he reached the hospital, and they took out the life support.
Yeah.
And he's dead now. So
Subhanallah.
he had his whole life ahead of him.
Yeah, you never know what it's going to be.
Marriage, and everything. So.
And that's the benefit of that is for all his friends and family to take the Ibrah. He said that his friend, who was at Umrah, and he was 4 days away from taking his
he's going to get residency.
He's going to get the match, the residency, basically the medical draft pick, basically. The draft, he was going up for the draft, and he died. He just died 4 days beforehand. So you never know when you're going to die. That's why you got to move now. You got to move now. Even if you have to go to work tomorrow, it doesn't mean you quit your job. You got to move now, change your motive, right? Your motive. Once your motive change, you can change your habits. Anything else? Okay, so that's a wrap for today's class on al-fikr, meditation, and I'll see you next week on abstinence or zuhud. جزاكم الله خير. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. اللهم حبب إلينا الإيمان وزينه في قلوبنا وكره إلينا الكفر والفسوق والعصيان. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما. اللهم أعنا على ذكرك وشكرك وحسن عبادتك. اللهم إنا نسألك حبك وحب من يحبك وحب كل عمل يقربنا إلى حبك. صلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. الحمد لله رب العالمين.